Good afternoon. I think I'm live. It says live video is starting. Oh, it's saying I'm now live. Good afternoon. So this is the awkward bit of the live where no one's found you yet. You don't know if anyone's coming, and you're not quite sure how to fill in the chat. But I realise that some people might not come, or maybe no one will come, and that's absolutely fine because we're all busy and you're going to watch it on replay. So I'm going to give it just a couple of moments for people to join because if they are joining, I don't want them to miss the first bit. And then we're just going to crack on. This is just an informal chat. There are no slides, but don't mistake informal for no value. This is going to be packed full with some golden nuggets for you. Hoping my voice holds out. I've got a bit of a croaky throat today. So if you join live, please say hello in the comments. I need to get you up on my phone as well because sometimes the comments don't always work on my desktop. So I'll just keep refreshing that. There we go. Put it on mute and look at the comments. Good afternoon. Mute. How do I mute? I think I'm going to be put my sound down. It's a while since I've done a live, as you can imagine. I'm going to balance you on my glass of water. Then hopefully if any comments come in, I will see them. So like I said, if you're joining live, say hello so that I know that you're there. If you're watching on replay, I'd love you to just put replay in the comments just so that I know that you've watched it, because it's nice to know that people have seen what you're talking about. Just see if I can see any comments on here as well. And also, I'd love it if you give me a like or some hearts just to help push this post out to more people in this group so more people can see what I'm talking about. Looks like the video on my phone is slightly behind time, so your comments might be slightly behind time. This is an informal chat. I want you, if you're on live, ask questions at any point. If you're watching on replay, just pop your questions in the comments, or find me on Facebook or LinkedIn. I've put all the links in the description, and you can just ask away. So it's 1 minute past 1, and I think we should just crack on. And then people can join as and when they do, or watch on replay. So good afternoon, my name is Bryony Jackson and I am the architect of Unshakable Brand Authority, and I guide brilliant business owners just like you to become unmistakably point-at-able online without having to shout the loudest and without having to be everywhere. So this isn't for everyone. If you like razzmatazz, if you like jazz hands and drama, this isn't for you. I work with business owners who are ready to command their space with quiet power and unshakable authority. And I want you to know that it stops here. So this is where we stop hustling, where we stop shouting, where we stop trying to be everywhere, where we stop burning out, and where we stop relying on hype and manipulation in our marketing. But it also starts here. This is where we create power in our words and strengthen our voice. And this is where we create a verbal identity that cuts through the noise and that attracts and repels in equal measures, because that's important too. And this is where you become unmistakable, unforgettable, and undeniable. And this is where you become the only choice. And when you master this presence, you no longer need to be loud or everywhere. Your presence is your power. You master the art of quiet influence where authority is felt and not forced, and this changes the game forever. This is marketing without the mask. This is true, raw, authentic marketing, the type that allows you to connect deeply with your audience. And this is how you build your personal brand from the bottom up, with a rock solid foundation. Not only is it the foundation of your marketing, but it's the foundation of your business. It's what shapes everything that you say and do. It shapes your offers, it shapes your processes, and it shapes how and where you show up. But before I go on, let me introduce myself properly. So I'm Bryony Jackson, the architect of Unshakable Brand Authority, and I live in East Devon near the beautiful Jurassic Coast with my partner, Mark, who is a gardener, and our two dogs, Caden and Woody. So Caden is a golden retriever, but he's very ginger, and Woody is a border collie. And we're a blended family, so we've ended up with two very different dogs, which can be very amusing at times. So Caden, the Goldie, He's very health and safety conscious. He's very risk averse. He's a mummy's boy and a bit of a cheese thief. He'd be a wonderful therapy dog. And then Woody is Marks, and he's a badass farm collie with no sense of feeling or empathy, too busy to eat, and an absolute blunderbuss. Now, as a child, I worked on a farm, and my only ambition was to marry a farmer so that I could look after the orphan lambs. But somewhere along the way, farmer turned into farmer, as in pharmaceuticals, and I've had a 30-year career in pharmaceutical sales and marketing, looking after very complex, data-heavy and multi-million pound brands. And the last 7 of those years were spent agency side, so still doing projects on behalf of the pharmaceutical industry. And my role as part of the senior management was to create digital marketing strategies for my clients, but get their message seen by the right person in the right way at the right time. Now, I've been wanting to get out of corporate for a long time. I never really fitted into the corporate world. I definitely didn't thrive in the corporate world. And there was a much needed redundancy, which was the catalyst for me starting my own business. But this wasn't actually the first business that I started. So while still in corporate, I retrained as a holistic therapist. And my whole business was related to stress reduction because I have suffered the negative impacts of stress, workplace stress. And my plan was that I would eventually leave the pharmaceutical world and do the holistic therapy full time. So I did all sorts of things. I did Reiki, I did massage, I did facial massage, I did a massage called Tui Na massage, which is very therapeutic. And basically, if it wasn't going to reduce stress, I didn't do it. And then life got a bit lifey, which is a whole other story. But I closed my business down and I sort of went back full time to the pharmaceutical world. So this is my second business. And when I came into this online world, I was shocked and surprised to see how many of us had left the traditional workplace because it couldn't accommodate either our caring roles, whether as parents or relatives, chronic illnesses, neurodiversities, and or menopause. And it really saddened me that we felt that we couldn't thrive in the traditional workplace. So I made it my mission to help people create successful businesses and financial freedom on their terms, however the hell they liked. And I decided originally that I was going to do this by making marketing easy, which is really broad. So I did the big expensive course, I followed the rules, I grew my audience, I did the free challenges and the big fancy launches. And whilst I got some clients, it wasn't enough. But more importantly, my nervous system did not like it one bit. And I was exhausted and I was burnt out. Because being in the spotlight like that, trying to shout the loudest, trying to be everywhere, just isn't me. So I gave myself a period of reflection, aka I quit for 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. And in that time, I really thought about what's the one part of marketing that I'm overlooking that will make the difference, that will make me stand out online, that will make me cut through the noise and become the leader in my corner of the online space without shouting the loudest and without being everywhere. And I had a bit of a light bulb moment. It became really, really obvious. I had not built my brand authority and my verbal identity. Now, I just want to take a moment to talk about verbal identity. Some people talk about brand voice, but for me, verbal identity goes much deeper. So in a traditional marketing agency, brand voice will use descriptive words like professional, casual, friendly, jokey. And actually, your brand voice can change per project depending on what that project is. But your verbal identity doesn't change. I'll put a caveat there. It will evolve over time, just like every other element of your business. But for the brand that you have now, your verbal identity won't change. And the best way I can describe verbal identity is by asking you a question. So, if I stripped away your name, your logo, your colours, and your beautiful imagery, would people still recognise you from your words alone, or could they belong to anyone? So let me repeat that question for you. If I stripped away your name, your logo, your colours and your beautiful imagery, would people still recognise you from your words alone, or could they belong to anyone? And that's what we achieve when we create a unique verbal identity. We achieve instant recognition, resonance and deep connection. So one thing you might like to try after this session is to go to your last post or your last email that you've sent, copy and paste it into a Word document, just plain text, and then ask yourself that same question. Now, I'm not sure how many times I've mentioned brand authority in this talk already, but I think it's high time I actually explain also what brand authority means. So brand authority is the clear positioning, the messaging and presence that makes your business instantly recognisable, credible and trusted in your space. It means that your audience know what you do, why it matters and what sets you apart without you having to constantly explain or prove it. And it's the strategic foundation that makes your content resonate, your offers convert, and your name come up in the right conversations, even when you're not in the room. And most importantly, it's what you stand for and what you stand against in your industry. It's the flag that you plant firmly on your mountain and say, this is me, and claim that space. Brand authority is what makes people trust you before they've even worked with you. And it's the felt sense that you know your stuff, not because you shout about it, but because everything you say and share is rooted in something real. I keep looking over to my left to check for comments on my phone, so if you have joined me live, please just say hello. And yeah, brand authority is what makes your message land with clarity, confidence and quiet power. It's not about having a huge audience, it's about being known for something that only you can deliver in only a way that you can say it. It's your experience, your values, your voice and your offers anchored and expressed with intention. And when your brand authority is embodied, your words carry weight. People listen, people remember, and people choose you. And what it does is it makes you point-atable. And it's when your presence is so undeniable that people don't just recognise you, they reference you. So they point to you as the example, the authority, the one to watch, the only choice. And they say, when I need X, I need you. And that's the level of influence that we're talking about. And that's what I want for you too. So if you join me live and you have any questions, please just pop them in the comments and I will come to them as and when I see them. But let's talk about the role of authority and visibility. All the coaches will tell you that you need to be visible. And of course, as an online business owner, you need some level of visibility. But what is visibility without value? It's not good enough to just be visible. You need to be both visible and valuable. And this is what rooting your content in brand authority will achieve. And I see so many people in my news feed who will put out a post about something completely random and they'll get loads of engagement because it's a hot topic. But that doesn't tell me what you do, why you do it and what you stand for. And I literally know nothing about you other than your name and whether you did or didn't like the Marks and Spencer's strawberry and cream sandwich, because that was a really hot topic. And that doesn't get you clients. It doesn't get you known for something. It makes you visible, but it doesn't get you known for something. It doesn't get you trust, and it certainly doesn't position you in the market. Now, I don't want to be the fun police here, and I always say there are no rules in marketing. You can talk about anything you want to talk about, but you need to root it back to who you are. And I want to give you an example from just last week. Lots of people had something to say about the Hormozy launch. Now, if you don't know who he is, he's a big player in the coaching arena. I would say he's probably a bit Marmite. You either love him or you hate him. And he made $90 million in one launch, but it was a hell of a launch. Now, I personally didn't know it was happening and I didn't see it, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But apparently it involved him live streaming on YouTube for 7 hours. And my only question from that was, did he go for a pee or not? So people were talking about what they learnt about the launch from him, or what they learnt about launching from him. They were talking about why they loved him. They were talking about why they hated him. And this is all great. That was just all just opinions. Now, I put out a post about the Hormozy launch as well. And at this point, I'm going to let you know that he's not for me, but that's okay. And I'm not one for slating people on social media. Hormozy certainly doesn't care about my opinion of him, and he's very successful and he should keep being him. But I put out a post that started with, whilst Hormozy was making 90 million, I was sleeping under the stars on the beach with the love of my life and our two beautiful dogs, and I felt like the richest person in the world. And then I went on to talk about quiet marketing, deep connection, and not being on YouTube for 7 hours. So in this post, I got to talk about the hot topic that everybody was talking about. I immediately positioned what I stood for in marketing and online business, and people got a little insight of the Bryony outside of work as well, and it was rooted in my brand authority. And this was one of my best performing posts because it resonated with so many people, and it gave a fresh take on how to view the Hormozy launch. But what it also meant was that my best performing post was really clear on what I stood for, what I stood against, and what I did. Because visibility without authority is just noise. Because you don't just want people to see you, you want them to trust you and to recognise you as the person for this, whatever it is you do. Authority isn't about being the loudest or the most aggressive. It's about conviction. It's about standing so firmly in what you believe and what you offer that people naturally gravitate towards you. Now, I've spoken to people about brand authority before, and lots of people have said, I'm not sure I want to be pointed at when I've used the word point-atable, but if people aren't pointing at you, you're not going to get clients. And they don't have to be pointing at you in a bad way. And people have said, I'm not authoritative and I don't have an authority. Trust me, you do. And that's what I actually help people do. I help them uncover their authority. But your authority doesn't have to be big, bad and ugly. Your authority doesn't mean you're going to have to be slating people online. I do none of those things. And the secret is your authority isn't about what you do. It's about how you see the world. It's about your opinions, your unique take, your this is how it should be done stance. And that's what makes people trust you. So you don't need to have a PhD in anything. You don't need to have some dramatic backstory or a tale of rags to riches. You don't need trauma porn. You don't need to rage bait. You just need to be you. So what I want to do today is I want to give you 3 powerful shifts that will help you to establish your brand authority. But I also want to help you to measure this. So I have pinned a link at the top of the comments, and I've also put it in the description of this post that gives you free access to my iconic brand scorecard. So by answering 6 simple questions, you'll receive a score of how iconic your brand is right now and how to elevate it to the next level. And then you can use it to check again. Once you've implemented these 3 powerful shifts and you've given it time to settle, you can then check again to see if your score has actually elevated. So link is in the comments and in the description, but let's talk about the 3 simple powerful shifts. So shift number 1 is the presence shift. So how do you decide what you stand for? How do you claim your space with confidence? And that's what we're going to look at first, because the way you position yourself determines whether you become an authority or an afterthought. An authority doesn't come from just knowing things. It comes from owning a perspective. You don't need to be the best in your field. You need to be the clearest about what you stand for. Excuse me. People trust those who have a defined stance, a way of seeing the world that makes sense to them, and that's what makes you point-atable. So if you're trying to be for everyone, you're for no one. Authority comes from making a choice about where you're going to plant your flag and say, this is what I believe, this is how I do things, and this is why it matters. So how do you decide what you stand for? Well, you can ask yourself 3 questions. Question number 1, what frustrates you in your industry? What are you tired of seeing? What feels outdated? What feels wrong or misleading? So for me, for my business, I reject the idea that success in online business is just a numbers game, that the size of your email list, the volume of your posts, or how loudly you shout determines your impact, that only the loudest, most extroverted voices get heard. I do not believe in that. Question number 2, what do you believe should be done differently? What's your fresh perspective? How do you see things in a way that others don't? So for me, for my business, I believe that success isn't about volume, it's about depth. It's about the strength of your voice, not how many times you speak. It's about brand authority that's not built on noise, but built on clarity. It's about deep connection, human to human marketing. And question number 3, what's the one thing that you want to be remembered for? If people mention your name in a room, what do you want them to associate you with? So for my example, I want people to think when they want to cut through the noise and they don't want to be loud, they think of me. So the moment you decide what you stand for, your presence will shift, and it really is a light bulb moment. You stop trying to fit into what's already being said and you start leading the conversation, and that's what makes you an authority. It's not about waiting for permission, it's about stepping into that role now. Your presence isn't just about showing up, it's about how you show up. Confident in your stance, unwavering in your message, and clear about what makes you different. And authority isn't given, it's claimed. And you claim it the moment you decide what you stand for. So the second power shift is the resonance test. And we've kind of touched on this already. Is your voice unmistakably yours? So you remember the question that I asked you earlier. If I took away your logo, your colours and your fancy branding, would people still know it's you, or would your words sound like any other business out there? So like I said, you can go to your last post or your last email, copy and paste it, text only into a Word document, and then ask yourself that same question, because most powerful brands aren't just seen, they're felt. They're instantly recognisable, not just by their visuals, but by their voice. So we need to put yours to the test. And people don't just follow brands, they follow personalities, they follow perspectives and the way you make them feel. Your voice is what creates that emotional connection. And when we say voice, we're talking about verbal identity, so written or spoken. If your message isn't distinct, you'll blend in no matter how pretty your branding is. So you've got the resonance test. We've already talked about that. So I don't think there's anything else I need to go on that. So third power shift is the signature sentence shift. Stand for, not just help. So we've talked about why standing for something is key to standing out and how to make sure your voice is unmistakably yours, but we want to put that into action. So your bio or your I help statement isn't just about explaining what you do, it's about showing the world what you stand for, and this is the shift that will make people take notice. So your bio or your I help statement is often the first impression people get of you, and it's an opportunity to show people what you stand for, not just what you do. And when you speak about your work, it's crucial to communicate that you're not just another service provider. You're a leader in your space, someone who has clarity about your stance. You don't just help people, you show them a different way and you lead them with your values. So what I would like to invite you to do is to reframe your I help statement, and instead of simply listing what you do, start with what you stand for. So to give you an example, let's say you're in coaching. It's not just I help women entrepreneurs build business. It could be something like, I believe women entrepreneurs deserve to run businesses that prioritise their well-being, or whatever it is you do. So can you see the difference there? One's about what you do, and one is about why you do it and what you stand for. And your I help statement really should reflect that. It's not a description, it's a declaration. Hard for me to say. So your I help statement is not a description, it's a declaration. So have a think about your business and your values, what you believe needs to change in your industry, what you stand for in the work that you do, what the impact is that you make in the world, and have a go at reframing your I help statement. So I really hope that you found this useful. I would love to connect with you, so you can find me on Facebook or LinkedIn, and I'll pop the links in the comments again, but they are in the description. So let me just, I don't know if I can do that whilst I'm on live, but let me try. Yes, I can. So there we go. If anyone has any questions whilst you're watching on replay, just pop them in the comments here, or you can send me a DM, however you'd prefer to do it. You have the iconic brand scorecard, so make sure you have a go on that and see where your brand is now, and where you want to take it to be. And this is what I do. I help business owners become unmistakably point-attable online without having to shout the loudest, by rooting them in their brand authority and their verbal identity. So thank you so much for having me today. Like I said, really hope you found it useful. Please pop me a replay if you've watched it on replay, and I hope to connect with you all soon.